Like, the reason why I think a lot of you are becoming atheists is just because, like, you want to, like, be intelligent.
Okay, this is my preemptive, this might be a Poe speech. Because the points made in this are so stupid and so extreme, I honestly think it might be a Poe. But just for the off chance, and because it's really funny, this is a very funny video to watch, and I just want to watch it. I honestly haven't even watched half of it. This guy is so bad at uploading and talking, it's unreal. So I just have to show it. I haven't watched all of it. There's 2 videos, well, he has 3 videos on his channel. I'm going to be addressing 2 of them, because one is 5 seconds long, named 129. And it's like 5 seconds long, and it's just him going, and that's it. It is funny. This whole thing is just a mockery. I feel bad for Christians having this motherfucker be on their side. That is how bad these 2 videos are. I'm not quite for sure if one video is, like, encompasses the other, because one's 6 minutes, another is 12 minutes. I don't know. This is gonna be funny either way. So, without any further ado, let's fucking jump headfirst into this fucking sham.
Alright, so a message to all the atheists out there.
Well, I'm not all of them, but I am definitely one of them. Oh, and by the way, portrait mode kills babies. I just thought I'd point that out. Just, you know, for your information.
It's getting pretty popular.
Yeah, it is getting pretty popular. Probably because of this thing we're communicating on right now. With the free access of ideas, both financially and just as ease of use. It is free to get millions, if not billions, of people's opinions on a matter at once, and millions and billions of scientific information at once. Free. So yes, atheism is on the rise. Whenever you have an enlightenment and a reformation, such as the internet is and will continue to be, there will be a rise of free thinking and atheism.
I mean, like, a lot of people out there are atheists nowadays. Like,
yes. Compared to the Dark Ages, when Christians would burn anyone suspected of not being a Christian. Yeah. There are a lot of atheists compared to then. There aren't a lot of atheists compared to the future, when a lot more people will be atheists. But yes, compared to the past, we are gaining in numbers, and it is a rather good thing, if you ask me.
It's just like, I don't know, I guess it's because, like, nowadays, like, being smart is cool.
I'm glad this fucker just cuts right to the fucking chase, where it's like, yeah, if you're smart, you're an atheist. I mean, it's just fucking obvious. I love how that's just the first thing he goes to when he starts talking about the rise of atheism. Yeah, you know, being smart is now considered cool. But yeah, no, thanks, man. Yeah, a majority of atheists are smart, and generally being smart leads you to become either less religious or more atheistic.
And because atheism, it revolves around, like, I don't know, I look at it as a religion that revolves, like, the answer to everything is what science says.
First off, Jesus, dude, fucking spit it out. Don't be fucking Porky Pig. Second of all, atheism is not a religion. It just fucking isn't, okay? I mean, there's very little I can do to explain it any further than that. It isn't a fucking religion. It is literally the opposite of a religion. And so is science. Science is also not a fucking religion. Science is a method. It is a method of looking at the universe, while religion is a collection of dogma that you must follow. Science is a method for looking at the fucking universe and trying to make sense of all this fucking wild, crazy shit that goes on in it.
That, like, would be, like, the more intelligent people. But anyway.
This is what I mean when I say I don't know if this guy's a Poe or not. I mean, he's making points against himself. You would think this guy's a Poe. He's only made 3 videos. But I really, sincerely do not know if this guy's a Poe. If he is, I'm sorry. I really am. I wasted your guys' time. I did shed light to his funny video, but I don't know. I've heard these arguments before being literally made. Non-facetiously made. I mean, maybe that's the scary thing, is that people are actually making these arguments. Maybe a little bit better than he is, but they are making these fucking arguments.
But anyway, some of the points against it, a lot of you have no idea what the fuck you were talking about.
Yes, a lot of human beings don't know what they're talking about. Including you.
There's some points against it that are pretty valid. The biggest 2 are that Holocaust was a result of it, and it was. I'll prove that in a second.
First of all, you're not talking about atheism and how it relates to reality. When you say, oh, the Nazis were atheists and the communists were atheists. You're not talking about the truth of saying there aren't gods. You're not talking about the truth behind that. You're trying to make a red herring. You're trying to move the argument, saying, oh, you don't want to be an atheist, the Nazis were atheists. Oh, you don't want to be an atheist, the communists were atheists. But guess what? I have some quotes here from Hitler. By fighting off the Jews, I am doing the Lord's work. Today, I believe that I am acting in accordance with the Almighty Creator. My feelings as a Christian points me to my Lord and Savior as a fighter. It points me to the man who once in loneliness, surrounded only by a few followers, recognized these Jews for what they were, and summoned men to fight against them. Yeah, sounds like an atheist to me. Someone who talks about Christianity and Christian values. But you know what? Who cares? Who cares about what Hitler thought, at least in public, what he said in public? Who cares about the authorities and what they believed? What really matters is what the people who actually did the crimes, the people who actually put the guns to heads, the people who actually put the beads into the shower rooms, believed. And it looks like a vast, vast majority of Nazi Germany was not only religious, not only theistic, but were specifically Christian. Specifically Christian. So when you say that the atheists are somehow connected to Nazi Germany, or that somehow Nazi Germany was an atheist country, you are completely fucking wrong.
And that it and communism go together.
This one I'll wait and hear what he actually has to say about this one.
So, let's start off with the Holocaust.
Okay, let's talk about the genocide where the soldiers committing it were wearing a belt buckle that said God with us on it.
The reason why Hitler did what he did, which is kind of interesting, it's kind of hard to grasp, what would go through someone's mind to actually, do something that horrific. And the reason why, that was about the time when genetics were being, discovered. And
I really don't see the connection between fascism and the science of genetics, but on that aspect of genetics being founded at that time, that's completely wrong. The founder of the modern science of genetics is a guy by the name of Gregor Mendel, who was born in July 20th, 1822, and he was an Augustine monk. But yeah, no, he was born decades, almost 100 years before Hitler was ever born or ever came to power. So no, you're completely wrong.
How it worked, and what else? Darwinism.
By Darwinism, I assume you mean evolution. But no, this also is just completely false. Evolution has nothing to do with Nazism or fascism or any political ideology. Hell, evolution doesn't even have anything to do with atheism. Now, of course, a lot of atheists accept evolution because it is a scientific fact, and as you established earlier, atheists are generally smarter people, especially when it comes down to the sciences. But no, evolution has nothing to do with the Holocaust or with fascism. They're completely different fucking things. Evolution is a science with evidence. Nazism and fascism and genocides are politically constructed things by people, by horrible, evil people. But it has nothing to do with fucking science.
And basically what we knew is that before like civilization, there were different tribes, and like each tribe like would be like basically a different race. Like they would, like, if you took one tribe and then you like put a rival tribe next to it, they would have like sort of like maybe similar genetics but kind of different, and they would kill each other over who would pass on the genetics.
Yeah, people, before there were, what do you mean by civilization? Like, that's another, like, what the fuck do you mean? Do you mean, like, 10,000 years ago civilization, or do you mean modern civilization? I don't know, whatever, that's not the funniest part. The funniest part is, you would just have two groups of people, and they'd be like, quick, we gotta kill each other, so that way we can determine who gets to mate! No, evolution is not a conscious activity. Those with better traits for their surrounding environment, those with better traits to better exploit the environment around them, will be the ones, by definition, to spread their genes, or to have a higher likelihood of spreading their genes. Not people fighting over each other about who gets to mate. It's not a conscious fucking activity like, quick guys, we gotta evolve, let's kill each other to see who gets to mate. That's not evolution. You look like you're in either middle school or early high school. Now, I really recommend paying attention in biology class. It really does pay off. As a former biology student and AP biology student, and someone who enjoys biology and science, I really do recommend just paying attention in those biology classes. They might be boring. You might have a shitty teacher. I was lucky enough to have an amazing biology teacher. But it really does pay off when it comes down to trying to understand the world around you.
And, like, if you take one point on, like, and then, like, go really far out, the farther out you go would be, like, the more different genetics.
I think this is his 3-year-old mind trying to describe a cladogram. A cladogram is not points going out and those things have different genetics. A cladogram is a diagram showing the evolutionary lineage or relation to other organisms, if that makes any sense. It's not the points that are the things that are different genetically. It's the organisms that are associated with those points. It's showing how different organisms are related evolutionarily, if that makes any sense to you. Again, you should probably pay attention in your biology class.
So Hitler thought that that's what he was basically going to do, was kill all these Jewish people, or really, like, it had nothing, a lot of people, like, don't understand. The Holocaust had nothing to do with religion.
Believe it or not, with this point, he's actually somewhat correct. The Nazis really didn't choose victims on the basis of religion, although that sometimes did have a role. It mostly had to do with the race, or the ethnicity, or the nationality of those people, and the political ideologies in which they held. Like, for example, of course, the Jews were the largest amount of people who were put into concentration camps, but including Jews, when it came down to ethnicity, were Poles, Ukrainians, Slavs, Serbs, and Romanis, which are just a different name for gypsies. Then you had everyone in the LGBTQ stuff. It was all those guys put in. Mentally or physically disabled people, POWs. Actually, believe it or not, Jehovah's Witnesses were also a fairly large religious minority that were persecuted by the Nazis. Then you had Spanish Republicans, which were somewhat they're kind of hard to describe, but they're basically a form of anarchist or socialist. You had Freemasons, you had African German mixes, which has a weird German name that I can't pronounce. You have people who are deaf, again, mentally or physically disabled people, communists, trade unionists, social democrats, socialists, anarchists, and basically anything else that wasn't complete in lockstep with the German nationalism, which is what it was, an extreme form of German nationalism, more specifically Northern German nationalism. Blonde, blue-eyed, tall stature, muscular, fascistic. Basically, those were the people who weren't put into concentration camps. And that's what the whole master race thing was. Now, there are actually some fairly interesting conjectures about it. Hitler is said, now, of course, everything with Hitler now is just, a puff of cloud where people can make up bullshit, or people made up bullshit in the past, and then people dig it up and say, hey, look, here's evidence. But there is some evidence to think that Hitler didn't actually believe any of the propaganda he was putting out and just used it so he could get in control of Germany. Because people with blonde hair and blue eyes were a majority, a vast majority in Germany. So he thought, well, if I can just push to this kind of racism and nationalism, then I can take control of the country and become the leader. And that's kind of what is thought to be the thing that first got him motivated into the whole occult and all that bullshit.
He did what he did, and the reason why is because, as an atheist, he thought that the answer was to carry out evolution and have the better, more superior race survive in the future.
Nope.
Wow. That was definitely a fucking bombshell you just fucking dropped. Wow. Okay. Here's the thing. Evolution is happening no matter what. As long as we are a sexual species, meaning we have sex to reproduce, there will be evolution. Recombining genes is fucking evolution, no matter what the fuck you think. But no, that's not... That's something else. That's called artificial selection. Where a person or a conscious object selects different traits and then breeds them together to create a different species or a different thing. It happens with dogs. Dogs are bred for the expression of certain traits. But that hurts my head. That kills me inside, because that is so stupid. The reason Hitler did what he did was for power. That is literally it. There is no philosophical reason. There's really no major reason. I do think Christianity was a big driving cause for the people in the front lines, but Hitler did it for power. That's literally just about it.
So, communism. They are like the same thing, communism and atheism.
Not even gonna get into, the definition of communism and atheism, because those things are fucking obvious. How one is a rejection of claims and the other in itself is a fucking claim. I'm not even gonna get into that. I'm not even gonna get into, definitions, because why would you want to use a dictionary definition of a fucking word when you use it? What I am gonna get into is to the amount of atheists that aren't even left-wing. Atheists that are specifically against, hardline against, communism in every way. Even people who are against, Social Security. There are atheists who are against even any type of social program. How then can you say that atheism and communism are the same fucking thing? I, on the other hand, I'm a more left-wing atheist, and I will admit there are a fair amount of left-wing atheists, especially here in the United States. But there are also a fair amount of libertarian, extremely anti-state and anti-communist atheists. You fucking idiot.
If you look at it, like, and if you know your politics, like, communism, like, what it means is that everybody's equal, and, I mean, I don't know.
Okay, because this guy's a moron and has no idea what he's talking about, let me explain what communism is in the most fair way I possibly can. Communism is a big catch-all term for a variety of beliefs, including Marxism, different forms of anarchism, different forms of socialism, social ownership, communal living, etc., etc. And for a majority of people, when you say communist, they think of the Soviet states. So I'm going to describe the Soviet state form of communism. Now, there are a bunch of different types of communism, and it's pretty stupid. It honestly, there's like there are millions of types of feminism, there are billions of fucking types of communism, and if you describe one type of communism without completely using every other fucking subgenre, it's also like metal. If you don't use every little prefix word to describe it, then that's not actually communism. So I'm not gonna fuck with the whole broad term, blah 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 blah. I'm just going to describe the Soviet Union, that form of communism, and how that relates to what he's talking about, because that's the one that's really the most relevant to what we're talking about here. And the Soviet or Stalinist or Marxist-Leninist form of communism was where you had one state that controlled everything. You had one party, one state. It was a complete monopoly on just about everything and everyone. So that's probably what he's going to go on to talk about. I have a feeling that's what he's going to talk about. There are different types of communism that vary from something that doesn't make any sense to something that might make sense in the most utopian way of thinking. That's basically communism in, 2 minutes?
Communism's really misunderstood. Like, it's looked at as evil in our society because the people who write our textbook and everybody, all the people who make up this country don't really the enemy. That's the opposite of what we are. But
do you not understand why the communist countries of the East were considered bad? They were considered bad because they had work camps and concentration camps. They were considered bad because there were witch hunts for anyone who thought differently. There were thought crimes. People were put into jail on stupid charges. If you don't understand why communism is bad, you might want to read George Orwell's 1984. It's, believe it or not, one of my favorite books. It's one of the best books in English, maybe ever written. You might want to read it sometime.
Communism. All the, the people who make up communism and the big socialists, like Howard Zinn, Karl Marx, all of them, they're all, Stalin, Castro, they're all atheists. And that's because in a communist society, the idea is that your life on Earth should be good.
First off, just because one group is a part of a bigger group does not mean the person in the bigger group is a part of the smaller group. I.e., just because communists are atheists doesn't mean all atheists are communists. And second off, do you disagree with that statement that life on Earth should be good? I think life on Earth should be good for everyone. It doesn't mean I'm a communist.
In a capitalist economy, people get screwed. There's one side that thrives and there's one side that gets screwed. And for the side that gets screwed, they really need that little extra bit of comfort to make sure that they'll have an afterlife, and that your life on Earth isn't parallel to hell.
Yeah, sometimes people get screwed. It doesn't mean they're not living a good life, for one. I mean, okay, if you're doing a business deal, just because someone gets screwed doesn't mean they're not living a good life comparatively to people who live in other parts of the world. And not always in That's not the point of a capitalist system, to screw people. The point is to make goods and services and to sell them for money so that way you can purchase goods and services. That's the point of a capitalist system. Now, this is what I mean by, is he a Poe? He might very well be, because that seems like a very Poe statement to make. Hell, he might be an atheist communist for all I fucking know, and he might just be screwing us all, but I don't know, I don't think so. I've heard people make these types of arguments and be this incoherent. Just for your guys' information, the end of his last video, the atheists are stupid video, he says that he just says evolution and then the video ends. So I went to the next video and he rehashed the last points he made, but in a bit more coherent way. And then I just skipped ahead to the point when he starts talking about evolution. So yeah, it was kind of disjointed, but I don't want to have to respond to the same points again, just said slightly differently.
It's not even that, like, evolution in general is proven, but, like, Darwinism is not, like, that proven. Like, only, like, I think it's 55, it might be 45 and it might be, like, vice versa, but, like, not a lot of scientists believe in Darwinism.
Darwinism isn't actually a thing. It is a word that creationists use to describe evolution. And yes, evolution is substantiated by evidence. Now, of course, if you do a strict reading of Origin of Species, it will not be 100% accurate. It's a 200-year-old book. No one is taking it as 100% accurate. Now, when we're talking about things like natural selection, those things are substantiated by evidence, and it is one of the bedrock, foundational parts of evolution that is 100% backed up by empirical fucking evidence.
Like, science isn't as certain as we like to believe it. Like,
what person on this side of the house believes in certainty? That they are absolutely fucking right. Name me one person in the history of humanity on this side of the house that actually thinks that they are 100% fucking certain in anything, in any conclusion that they have ever fucking held.
Darwin, we don't really know the answers. Like,
not all of them to all questions, but a lot of people know the answers to some questions, while you, on the other hand, know no answers to no questions.
Like, Darwinism really isn't that proven. Like, about, like, I don't know if I already said this, but, like, only half of, like, scientists actually believe in Darwinism.
Where the fuck did you get that number? That's so far from... Okay, for one, if they're not a biologist, who gives a fuck what they think? It doesn't matter if you're a fucking, like, I don't know, weather scientist or a social scientist. That one's in a huge quotes. You can be a meteorologist and be credible and have a scientific degree, but I don't give a fuck what social scientists think. They're generally a bunch of fucking morons. Not generally, they are a bunch of morons. But it doesn't matter what any other type of scientist thinks. It matters what biologist thinks. But that's not even fucking true. The amount of scientists who fucking accept evolution is 87% of U.S. scientists done by a Pew Research poll in 2009. The amount of young Earth creationists in American scientists are 2%. 2 fucking percent.
Because it's really not that proven. Like, we only have a tiny, tiny bit of evidence of where we came from.
Because I don't have all day, I'll just show you a list of all known transitional fossils. Still going. Yep, still going. Oh, whale evolution, sirens, the horse, human evolution. This one's actually very well documented, and there we go. Now, these aren't the amount of fossils. These are just the different species of fossils that we have that are transitional. These aren't even all fossils. These don't account for the amounts of each we have. These are just the species that we have. And there are tens, hundreds, maybe even thousands each. And then there are many, many more different fossils that are, of course, transitional, but aren't transitional to modern day species, or at least don't show a direct transition from one species to another.
And we have to use that little bit of evidence and like analyze the absolute shit out of it until we can find answers. And a lot of the answers aren't really true.
Like I just showed you, there are tons of fossils, and those were just a few of them. There are millions of different fossils out there that we know of. There are definitely, and will probably be much, much more in the future. Not only that, but we have DNA evidence. Not only that, we have embryological evidence. Not only that, we have homologous bone structure, where structures in, say, a human hand is very similar to the structures in, say, a bat, because we're both mammals and we share a much closer common ancestor. So yes, there is so much evidence out there that we can draw many, many, many different conclusions that have been made and must be true because there is evidence for it.
We just go with Darwinism because it gives us an answer, and it gives us like that little bit of like comfort, really, of where we came from, but it's probably not true.
I honestly thought the bomb was the Nazi thing. I really thought the bomb was the Nazi thing. I don't think there's any coming back from this. I'm at a loss. I'm at a fucking total loss. Christianity is exactly as you described. What comfort do people get from evolution? What the fuck are you talking about? This Poe. The video is done here. For one, there's no coming back from that. There's no topping that. And he has to be a Poe, because that is literally what fucking Christianity is.